welcome to People Keep Dying, a podcast where we talk about people who die. I'm your host, Angela.
And I'm Stephanie.
And this week, we're going to my parents' home country of Korea and a recent-ish event that happened that was very shitty that you may have heard of, but they don't really talk about it a lot in these Western states because it doesn't really concern us as much. But I'm going to go through like all the technical boring stuff really fast in the beginning because it's a lot of like knots and degree stuff that seemed important that I should mention it, but it's really boring. So on the morning of April 16th, 2014, 476 people boarded the RoPax, or the roll-on, roll-off passenger ferry en route from Incheon towards Jeju-do Island in South Korea. It's a fairly common route that a lot of people take, and most of the passengers on the ferry were high school students.
Were they going on a trip?
Yeah, it seems like they were going on a field trip, which is that's why not? Like I know I'm gonna go visit when we're.
Something tells me they're about to get a whole lot that they didn't pay for.
Yeah, well, I'm actually gonna go visit in April because there is an amusement park in Jeju-do Island.
You're gonna go visit this island?
Yeah, Jeju-do Island.
Oh my God, you can't tell me that.
It has a love land where they have massive monuments
of
to penises.
Yes.
And
is that the penis
acts.
island?
It's an amusement park where there's a whole bunch of penises, but the island's known for like seafood and being really pretty, but there is an island there. Like there's like a new theme park there that there's like a whole bunch of sculptures of penises.
You have to go and take.
I have to go.
You have to go.
And I'm gonna tell my mom we have to go, and she'll be like, "Oh, it's so beautiful." And then when we get there, I'm gonna be like, "Oh, by the way, mom, we're gonna look at dicks," and she's gonna be really mad at me. And I'm
probably.
So I only know the word for dick in Korean is also the same word for pepper. So she might think that I'm talking about like hot peppers, but
that's interesting. Put a little hot pepper in your mouth.
I think it's probably a more common used word for dick in Korean that I don't know of.
Because dick is a slang.
I don't know slang in Korean.
You don't know Korean slang?
No. I know a lot of curse words because I was yelled at. I wasn't a really good kid. I don't listen, but it's because,
Man, now I really want to know slang dick words.
Well, now we can learn them all. Someone might tell me.
Yeah.
So at 7:30, third mate Park Han-kyul and helmsman Cho Jun-ki took over. And I'm going to say their last names in a more American inflection, so it's easier to remember.
Yeah.
And I won't say their full names because it'll get really tiring.
So what's their names again? It's in the American.
It's Park Han-kyul and Cho Jun-ki. So I'm just gonna call them by their last names.
Cho and Ki?
Cho and Park. So
Cho and Park.
The third mate is Park and helmsman is Cho. And I'm saying
the fuck is a helmsman? You know what? It's probably a boating thing. Doesn't matter.
There's a lot of technical boat stuff.
It's a seaman.
I wrote this down. There's a lot of technical boat stuff about knots and degrees I don't know about since I'm not a boat expert. So I'm basically going to paraphrase it quickly to get to the event. So this is mostly just copied and pasted because I don't know anything about boats.
Well, knots are nautical miles per hour.
Which you totally know offhand. Right? You didn't look it up.
I didn't research that already. Yeah. No.
So Park ordered Cho to change the steering system from autopilot to manual. At 8:46, which is an hour and 15 minutes after, they took over, Sewol, which is the ferry, was traveling at 18 knots at 136 degrees. Park ordered Cho to change from 135 to 140 degrees. Then Park ordered Cho to change to a further 145 degrees. I don't know why.
So he's at like 136 and he's like just boating around and his partner's like,
go to 140.
Go to 140.
And then go to 145.
And then go to 145.
And this led to the ferry to bow and then turn
10
to the right.
degrees. That's 10 degrees. And that's really quickly.
Yeah. So Park gave Cho an order to turn the wheel to port center because it started like turning to the right. So then you want to fix it. And then Cho at that point exclaimed, "The wheel isn't working."
Okay. So he's
trying to get into center.
he's turning it to the
Center,
side,
and
then
then
he's trying to turn it back to the center, but
wheel's not
the
working.
wheel's
'Cause
not
I think it's
moving.
jammed.
Okay.
Yeah. He said he only received the order to change the course to 140. So at this point, he's saying that he didn't get the
order for the
order to go back
145.
to do it at 145 or even go back to center. He's saying
But
that
I
he
mean,
didn't get any
like,
of that.
but he's like, I mean, if he's trying to go back anyways, it's turning, like he's already gonna go way
Yeah.
past the 140
So the
or
ship
the 145.
The ship kept turning to the right even as he was holding the wheel, so he made 2 turns to the left, amounting to 5-degree turns. So I think he
Okay.
did
So
eventually.
he did 2 5-degree turns.
So no, amounting to 5
Oh,
degrees.
okay.
So he eventually faced 145 degrees. So Cho testified that Park gave an order to turn in the opposite direction, which he followed by turning the ship further to the left by 10 degrees, amounting to 15 degrees to the left. Because at that point it was 145, so I think it turned to 155 at that point.
well, because he was turning to the right, now he's turning to the left.
He was turning to the left already.
He was already turning to the left. I thought he was
And
turning
then
to
so
the right.
Cho said that,
This is just a lot
So-
of turning.
yeah, so
He's turning really
So
fast.
Cho said that Park gave him the order to do opposite direction, but
Yeah.
I think he was flustered and he
Yeah.
didn't do it. The court came to the conclusion that Cho's steering led to the ship to attempt a 15-degree turn within 40 seconds. I think
Yeah.
just the amount of things going on in
yeah,
that short
it was
amount of
too
time.
much.
And if that was the end of the story, and that no one would hear about the story if
Yeah.
that was the end of it, but of course it's not.
It clearly goes to court.
Yep. And clearly someone dies in it.
Oh.
Now we have to decide how many people have to die from people being super shitty.
Well, I would really prefer if it was 0 people had to
But-
die, but
This isn't a podcast about people who survive.
Yeah, we're
Let's
not.
say that.
This isn't a
This isn't
podcast.
I survived.
This isn't a podcast about people who survive.
No, it's not.
Oh my god.
People die.
People keep surviving should be our follow-up podcast.
We would just be telling I survived stories. That
Yeah,
would
just
be-
like crazy fucking man.
Yeah.
People. Okay, sorry.
The court
That was
also concluded that Cho, who was flustered by how fast the ship was turning, was attempting to turn to the left when he took Park's order to mean a turn in the opposite direction. So
Okay.
even though Park had said go in the opposite direction, he wasn't, because I think he got flustered and
See,
maybe
I think he was already turning to the right.
yeah,
And then he was turning to the left, so when he told him to turn it in the other direction,
he just kept turning to the left,
yeah,
thinking that he
thinking
was. Yeah,
that he probably
and I
thought
think
that
it would
he
have helped
meant-
if she was more specific on which
yeah,
way,
which is why you're supposed to be
say
like
right
that.
or left. But you know
or
what?
like starboard and portboard, right?
This was all
Is it
learning
portboard?
experience now. It's a learning experience now, right?
Portboard. I don't think that's right.
I don't think you're a boat person.
I'm not a boat person. I've never been on a boat. The only boat I've ever been on are the
Cruise
cruises,
ships.
are my cruise ships.
I went on like a random boats to go to like in the middle of the ocean to swim with like turtles, but
Oh yeah, I guess I
Yeah.
did that also on my cruise ship. I've been on like a little tugboat, but I've never been on a speedboat or like a
this is a ferry, so
yeah. I've
it's
never
more like a cruise ship maybe than
yeah
a
maybe.
speedboat. But this led him to make a turn to the right, causing the head of the ship to rapidly turn right.
Yes.
And Captain Lee, who was a captain of the ship, was not present during this time because it's a normal like, I guess like it's
Like
it's
when you say present, do you mean like at the time when these two
He-
dudes
what- yeah.
are like arguing? Oh, while
one
they're
was
spinning
a
the
woman
wheel.
and
Sorry.
one was a male.
When I said dudes, I didn't
I know.
necessarily mean like 2 guys. It was just like 2
Yeah,
people.
But
Sorry.
2 people, yeah. He wasn't present during that time. He was on the ferry, of course.
Okay,
but
okay.
he just wasn't there for this whole incident, which happened pretty quickly, it seemed like. They took over, they were doing it for like an hour, and all of a sudden, like,
This is just in the morning, right?
yes.
Okay.
So they took over at 7:30, and this 7:46 is when everything kind of just went crazy.
Damn, that's a bad start to your day.
So an hour and 15 minutes later, everything was on the shithole.
Yeah.
The time of the incident, conditions were calm, and Sewol was following a route that was routine. So there should have been no reason why they were just jerking around for whatever. They're just
Yeah.
jerking around. But then I think I
It's
know.
almost like they're just like being dicks.
I think I know what happened, which I will mention in the end of this,
Okay.
because of all the information I have. Like, there's a lot more information about this
They're
boat.
probably just like dinking around.
Just like this Hampung department, there was a lot of corruption that happened beforehand that could have led to this particular thing happening.
Was it a faulty boat? Did we find out that it's a faulty boat? Is it Titanic
it's not
style?
faulty, but it definitely
had
was,
falters.
There was faults in the whole thing.
Okay.
So right before sinking started, breakfast was served in the cafeteria. So they think a lot of people were in the cafeteria during that time.
Okay. Do you happen to know if the cafeteria was in the bottom or the top? No?
I think with how many people survived, that the people in the cafeteria survived.
Yeah. Because I'm thinking because it sounds like the boat's about to go down. So if these people are out for breakfast, they're probably out wandering around. So they could probably
just sitting. And then the ship goes crazy, and so you're like jerked around.
Yeah.
And then you're like a little bit more like, what the fuck do I do? But then it's
my
not
mimosa
everyone.
has spilled.
But it's not everyone, right? Yeah. And it's all high school students.
Yeah, sorry.
So yeah. And as you know, as you can already feel, a ton of kids are gonna die. So.
Oh yeah, this isn't a happy moment, guys. Yeah. A bunch of kids are about to go down.
So Captain Lee was in his private cabin, immediately rushed to the bridge after the incident.
Can we just imagine for a moment that the boat probably went beep, beep, like it was probably shaking a lot because
like turbulence.
Let's just, for the sake of argument, say that these two dudes or the two people running the boat were they were jerking the reel around, and it probably jerked the boat, so that probably alerted him. That's why I think the big jerk alerted him, and he was like, "Holy fuck, let's go! Let me figure out what these guys are doing. This is happening." My poor nap.
So all the ship's mates and helmsmen also arrived at the bridge, and the chief engineer stopped the engines. Although it is unknown if he did it on his own volition or if he was following Captain Lee's orders. I'm not sure why you would turn off the engine, but maybe they just thought there was no point of trying because the boat was already tipping. I don't know.
Well, it was the boat tipping at this point?
Yeah.
Okay.
Basically.
Well, then, I think I don't know too much, but maybe the people that were down in the bottom probably realized that something was happening. So maybe they cut it off.
Which was not the right answer either.
Wasn't it?
It wasn't, apparently. I don't know enough about boats to know why it wasn't the right answer.
I don't know why you would leave the engine running if you're tipping.
Because you can't even try to untip it, apparently. Because you should be trying. You're supposed to stay down there no matter what to fix the problem, to try to save everyone.
But what the fuck is the engine going to be able to do?
Who knows? I don't know. I'm not a boat person.
Run to the other side of the boat to help with tipping.
So as Sewol started to sink, communications officer Kang Hye-sung made an announcement telling passengers to stay put, as moving around was dangerous.
Everybody.
Yeah.
Just sit down. Everything's fine.
We got everything under control.
Just keep eating your breakfast. Everything's good.
Stay in your rooms. Or I think they told everyone to leave that cafeteria and go back to their rooms.
Oh,
which might make sense too.
Maybe.
Yeah. So King had not consulted the manual before making this broadcast, because I'm pretty sure the manual will be like, tell everyone to put the lifeboat vests on and get the fuck off the boat.
Yeah.
But they didn't read it, so I don't know how he was a communications officer.
So they didn't read it doesn't really seem like they knew.
I don't think this kind of event happens, so they just didn't really know.
It's like it's when you get loosely trained on something, and you're just like, oh, everybody does this route every single day.
Totally
so you gotta do this, and you gotta do over here.
Some of the stuff that happens towards the end, though, gets really sad. I was crying half. This was the one I was gonna do last week.
I don't want to cry right now.
Remember this Hampung department store disaster? You know how sad you felt. It's gonna be like that. Really sad. It's gonna be like that.
Thanks for reminding me of my sadness. No problem. Why did I agree to be told sad stories all the time?
Well, sometimes it's not sad, because sometimes it's consensual cannibalism. But
sometimes there's a chewy penis involved, and that really lightens my day.
Yeah, but then sometimes it's like this, where you're like, no.
Oh yeah, when hundreds of dead children are on a boat. Well, sorry, they're not dead yet, but it doesn't sound like it's going anywhere.
Well,
yeah.
So the chief engineer evacuated the engine room, and then the broadcast for them to stay put started going off at 8:52 a.m. With the engines off, though, Sewol was unable to change directions and began drifting sideways. And I think that was a problem. If the engines were on, it would stay put.
Yeah.
Whereas because the
it's
engines
probably
were off,
like
yeah,
it's probably still doing something on the other side of the boat, which is probably going to hold it up. But
And
now the
engines are off, it's
water's
just
going
sinking.
to push against.
Yeah, and I think that's why.
Because I know you said that it was though like the water was calm, or like the weather
Was very calm and
was very calm,
mild,
but
yeah.
I mean like the water still has its own movement.
Yeah, it still has some sort of movement. So I think if the engine had stayed on, it would have at least been able to stay in place to make everything else a little easier.
Yeah, it's hard to tell. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But I'm going to guess when they did these court reportings that they did know. And that's
Yeah.
what they said.
And that's why they're mentioning it to us.
And they're experts.
Yes.
The
Well,
first
we
rescue
hope.
call was not made by the crew member, but by a passenger, because you don't have time to be fucking calling, the Coast Guard or anything for help, because they're out drinking beer, which they totally were.
The Coast Guard was drinking the
No,
beer?
the crew members were drinking
the
beer.
crew members were drinking the beer.
And that's why they probably didn't call the fucking Coast Guard.
That's
or
so.
emergency
Who's
services.
drinking beer at 9 o'clock in the morning?
Korea has the highest alcohol per capita in the world.
Really?
Yes.
So why?
Because you can drink and party all night. That's
Yeah,
what you
but, like,
do.
Why?
Oh, it's part of the culture. You drink all
Okay.
night. Like you go after you work, you go with your boss or your friends from work, and then you drink all night, and then you go back to work next morning. And that's how you socialize.
That's how the government keeps everybody, under their finger.
Yeah.
Very 1984. If you haven't read that book, read it. We're living it now.
And be
It's
really,
scary.
really depressed.
Don't be depressed. Rise up and fight.
Yeah.
No, because they'll.
It worked really well in that book.
Yeah.
Did you not read it?
Yeah, they.
It didn't work out well for him either.
Man,
And especially
no.
in the end where he was like, "Oh, and I was happy," and I'm like, "This is the worst fucking."
Yeah, don't ever be happy.
Don't ever think you won.
Don't ever think you win.
No.
You'll never be. Ugh.
So Tanwon high school student Choi Tok-ha called emergency services at 8:52 and connected with Mokpo Coast Guard at 8:54. So that means he was on hold for 2 minutes. What the fuck was the Coast Guard doing for 2 minutes and they couldn't pick up a fucking phone
Drinking,
call?
apparently.
Well, they're not the Coast Guard. That was a crew member.
Okay, sorry.
I don't know what the Coast Guard was doing though, because
Well,
it shouldn't have taken 2 minutes.
Masturbating.
Whatever,
Yeah,
maybe.
that's so crazy.
I feel like in an
2
emergency
minutes on
situation,
hold?
it shouldn't be like I don't know if it's like they're connecting.
I
but
wonder,
still.
like, how far out she was from inland.
But it was.
But
this is
no, because it's
2014.
2014.
Yeah, this isn't like back in the days.
Yeah, but I
where
mean, it's in Korea, and I don't know what
they
the
have
cells
they,
like.
They
in Korea.
have the fastest internet
Do they really?
in the whole world. They
That's
have the fastest
interesting.
internet. Yeah.
Crazy.
I mean, have you ever
Why?
played anyone in Korea in any sort of online game? That's how they beat you, because their internet, first of all, is incredibly fast, and they're also like ninjas on the
Because
computer.
their government doesn't throttle their shit.
No, they don't. I think they do like make some websites a little harder to get to if they're.
Anyways,
Let's go back before we get distracted
well,
again.
let's go back.
So, the Tanwon high school student Choi Tok-ha was asked to give the latitude and longitude of the ferry, and a patrol vessel was dispatched at 8:58. So 4 minutes after he connected with the Coast Guard, they dispatched a patrol vessel. But I'm like, if someone's like, the ferry's, fucking going down, you can't just send one vessel. You have to send the whole everything.
There's 500 people on this fucking boat that's going down, which, I mean, it's a common ferry that commonly goes to this island, so they should know how many people are on it.
And this is 4 years ago.
And
so I feel like
why are they
should have been
sending
able
a
to
patrol?
like, wouldn't they be able to get better? Like, this wasn't that long ago.
They
You know
should
what
have,
I mean?
yeah, they should have at least had 5 boats going.
Yeah. But anyways, sadly, because this story does not end happy, Choi did not survive and was later found dead.
Okay, so the little kid was later found dead?
Yep.
And, like, I assume...
The guy who called, the
Okay.
kid who called, he died.
Oh, because
So-
he stayed in his room?
Yeah, probably.
That's
So the Sewol crew made their first distress call at 8:55, 3 minutes after the high school student did.
something, like,
Something
must have been going on.
They must have been fighting over what to do, even though it's like your ship is fucking sinking. You call all the help when you have that many passengers.
Yeah.
Regardless.
Yeah.
Yep.
Were they struggling to like communicate into like the mainland?
I don't think so, because that kid got through, so it's not.
But I mean, it took 2 minutes for the kid to finally connect in, so I'm wondering.
But by that time, 8:55 was after the kid already connected too, and they knew about this earlier. They should have known about this before that kid knew.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
SOS should have been beeped over
immediately
from those two douchey people in
who
the
fucking
beginning.
made the mistake in the first time. But I
Park and who?
Park and
Shoy?
Kim.
Shoy?
I want to say Kim. I always say
not
Kim.
Kim.
It's Cho. Yeah,
Cho.
it's Cho. There's only like 10 Korean last names. So,
I didn't want to be racist and say
but
that.
it is. There's not that many. There's not that much. Like when I graduated, there were like 60 Kims who graduated with me. So, you know.
The strong last name.
Lee and Kim are very strong. They have a lot of people.
What
with
do
those
they
last names.
What do they mean? Is that a translated word?
No, it's like this generational name that you get. Like, so everyone comes from certain families. Like my last name is Min, so we are all technically related because I think there was only one Min clan and we all came from the same person. But then Kim's, there were a couple of different Kim clans, so then they are like, I don't know, it's just a really common last name because Korean last names are almost always one syllable.
Yeah.
Kim, Lee, Park, Cho. You know,
Yeah.
every once in a while you get like a 2-syllable one, but it's very, very rare.
And so they're like your clan names, right? Because like
It's like your last name, which is I think that's like the best way to say a clan name. Okay, so at 9:07, Sewol's crew confirmed that the ferry was capsizing and needed help from the Coast Guard.
Oh, I'm so glad that 20 minutes later they're like, "Hey, by the way, we're actually capsizing.
You please help us?"
Why was the Coast Guard not even there yet?
I don't know. See all these problems. That's like the big problem. Like,
How
don't
far
you have
was the-
helicopters?
Yeah.
Don't you have fucking stations everywhere?
I mean, do they?
They should.
Yeah, especially with this island.
This route to Jeju Island is very, very common. It's not.
And is it a short route? Like
I don't know.
Who the fuck knows? Okay, but
I should know, but it's not that far from what I've looked up. But yeah.
Yeah.
So at 9:14, the crew stated that the ship's angle of the heel made evacuation impossible, which I'm not really sure how that works because I'm pretty sure there's always another end.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's
Just
open on all sides. There's a place that you can jump off.
I think it was just like, oh,
there's probably not.
Try,
you can't
I'm
like
sorry, bye.
single file like walk them out, but like jump off the sides, every man for themselves.
Yeah, they didn't say that though. So
No,
during
it
this
didn't.
time, the captain continued to tell passengers to stay in their rooms.
That doesn't make any sense. The only reason why I would think that was because like he wanted the hallways calm.
Oh no, I'll get to I do have his words of why he did that in the end of the story, and it will not make you happy.
Well, I'm not happy now.
So at 9:30, orders were given by the captain to evacuate the ship, but the order may not have been relayed to the passengers because it's possible the communication officer may not have recorded it and sent it out, or maybe the speaker wasn't working, or who knows at this point what's going on, but it's possible that's the reason why so many people didn't try to escape.
The captain was like,
all right,
hey,
tell people.
Yeah, you need to get them off this boat, toot sweet. And then nobody did.
Nope. So at 9:33, nearby ships volunteered to help rescue. 9:33.
It's been an hour?
Yeah. So at 9:30 is when the captain's like, we should evacuate the ship.
An hour?
It was like 30 minutes, but still.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it started tipping at
8:50.
Oh, okay.
It was 8:48 or something.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It wasn't that long.
Yeah.
But
still, 50 minutes, this little boat or this massive boat's been tipping. Now, how far inland or how far away from land? Like, could the people that are like standing?
No, because they've at least been on this boat for an hour and a half.
Okay, so
yeah, because remember the crewmen, those two people took over at 7:30, and things didn't happen until 8:46. So they were at least on into the ocean for over an hour.
Maybe they were having like communication issues then if they were like that far out I assumed
But then the
that it was
person
a
was able
shorter.
to call from their cell phone.
Yeah, but
too.
I mean, only one person called.
Yeah, but maybe
it's
like,
weird that only one person did.
maybe there's an assumption that like, oh, well, that's just the
See, the
first
things
call.
that I'm assuming is that someone put
That's
one of
just the
those like
first call.
phone jackers
Yeah.
like down and
Like I said, that's the first call. That's
Okay.
not a reflection of how many people called. It's just
Okay.
a reflection of the very first person
Okay.
who called.
Yeah.
So you have to, yeah.
Okay.
So at 9:38, all communications were cut off between the vessel traffic service and the ferry.
Fuck.
I think at this point it's because they all jumped the fuck off.
I think also like if it's tipped, like maybe some things started breaking.
It's because the captain and crew members jumped off. That's why.
Oh.
It's probably exactly the reason why. Because they were
Wow.
rescued at 9:46, or captain was rescued at 9:46.
Oh.
Communication was cut off at 9:38.
Uh,
It's probably why it was cut off, because he was off the fucking boat.
I'm pretty sure he's supposed to go down with his boat.
Yep, it is Korean law that says that if you're the captain of the fucking ship,
That is water law.
I don't know if it's
That
law.
is that is the ocean. Yeah, a captain always goes down. To
I
his
didn't know.
boat.
Like I didn't know if it was.
I mean, I'm sure it's
everywhere,
not a law.
But
law,
in Korea, it's a law
Oh.
to go down with your fucking ship, as long
Yeah.
unless everyone's off the boat, obviously. But yeah, you're the last one off the boat. That's law.
Yeah.
Yeah. So 3 minutes later, 150 to 160 passengers and crew members jumped overboard. So it seems like they just cut off communication and they ran off the fucking boat.
And they were probably like yelling down the hallway, "Get off, get off, get off!" And
But
then
then,
jumped
like,
off, and then
yeah,
didn't
but I mean,
say
like,
anything
there's
to
so
anybody
many-
else.
But there's so many levels, right?
Yeah.
Because in this story, I also talk about like there's third floor and a fourth floor. So even if you just go through the first floor, then at least you save those people. But
Yeah.
everyone below you, fuck them. They're not gonna make it. And
Wow.
sorry to tell you that they don't. So Sewol took 2.5 hours to fully sink. As passengers were told to stay put in their cabins, the captain and crew members abandoned ship. The captain and the second mates were the first to be rescued at 9:46 a.m.
Fuck
5
you.
whole minutes in the cold waters. Oh, how hard it must have been for him.
Yeah, I
Just-
mean, it just like
Yeah.
he was really like, "Well, this isn't my fucking mess. I'm not going down with this trash fire."
Even though it's like, well, you're the captain,
Yeah,
so it is your
your
mess,
mess.
regardless of who did it.
Did
It's your mess.
Those other two, the original
They
two,
also
they
got-
jumped off
yep.
and got saved.
That's
fuck
why they
them.
were showing up in court.
They should have been handcuffed
Everyone.
to that dumb steering wheel. I don't know what it's actually called.
The wheelie thingy.
The wheelie
The
thing.
wheelie thingy.
The wheelie thing with all the spokes.
So even as water came into their cabins, passengers followed the announcement and stayed put. And this is because culturally, you're supposed to listen to your elders and authority figures because they're supposed to know more than you.
That's not something that would happen here.
But in Korea and I think
Yeah.
in China and Japan, it is hammered into you to respect your elders always and what they say is true. And that's
Well,
why
I don't understand why so many stayed. Like, I understand you know what, maybe it really is just that, like, I don't understand the whole, like, listening to that degree.
because we don't do that here.
Because of the situation, because of
Yeah.
what's going on, because I don't believe that people weren't screaming their fucking heads off and it wasn't like total chaos. It had to have been total chaos.
But I think because everyone was in their own cabins, you don't really hear.
I
and then
mean,
and like the
maybe.
speakers are blaring with
Yeah,
people telling you
maybe.
to stay put, and you're told to kind of stay calm. And like a lot of
Maybe.
the passengers did call their parents and leave messages and made video calls.
And it probably was like, I mean, I don't know. Maybe they got trapped. Maybe the people on the lower floors were trapped. I mean, maybe they closed the
it's
doors
probably,
and locked
it's also
them in.
really hard to probably open those doors with water coming in as well.
Well, yeah, it really depends on the state
Yeah, it's
of
really hard
how
to
it's tipping over and where the water's coming in.
I just don't know enough about boats to know exactly what happened. But the thing is, like, they could have
Because
survived.
if it fell all the way over and then sunk this way, I could see maybe how they weren't able
see,
to get out.
It took 2.5 hours for the whole boat to sink, right?
Yeah, but I mean, like, in the first hour.
I know, but like the thing was that, like I said, the problem wasn't the fact that they were sinking. The problem was that in the end, like later I'll talk about, no one goes on the boat to save them.
Okay.
I'm going to mention that later, and that's
Okay.
the real reason why people weren't
That
saved as well. I mean, there's
is
also
very
the
upsetting.
fact that people didn't, try to run out, but I think it might have been like one of those things where you tell like people like, oh, get the fuck out as an emergency. Like, people start trampling people get hurt,
Yeah.
and you don't want to deal with that either. And they've seen
Yeah.
that with other experiences, so they
Yep.
thought keeping everyone calm was more important, which is also possible. But
I mean, keep them calm to a point. I understand, like, I do understand the keeping them calm and trying to, like, not have everybody, like, be all crazy. I didn't realize that no one went to save them off that boat.
you will hear that later. And like I
Yeah.
said, as I've said in the beginning, this is one of those things where when every level of government that was supposed to help out, every level of everything that's supposed to be there to help you fails you, this is what happens.
Yeah.
And, it's not.
It's the worst case scenario.
Yeah. And it's
in
not,
all of the worst case scenarios.
it's not obviously Korea specific. It happens everywhere in the world. Maybe not to the same degree as a ferry sinking, but then there are buildings that explode, or, there's fires, or, whatever. But then some businesses will fucking cover that shit up, and some businesses will get government bailouts after things like that happen, after you ruin other people's lives.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because
Or you
money.
can, fucking poison an entire town's water, and you won't be convicted
Because
for
there's
those.
a whole bunch of white dudes just sitting around in a circle, jerking each other off.
And at least in Korea, people who fucking do something wrong.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to
serve.
hearing the punishments against these people, because
They're not as maybe may not be as severe as you'd want them to be, but they do
it
make
doesn't matter. It's
sense.
something.
It's something.
It's something.
And even it also shows that even people in power and rich people can still get punished if you do a shitty thing,
In
which
Korea.
they should be
Yes.
in all places, regardless of what they fucking do.
Mad respect. Mad respect. Doesn't matter who you are. You do the crime, you do the time.
Exactly. So videos made by passengers were recovered, with the announcement of staying put and putting on life jackets very clearly heard over the speakers.
That's so.
Imagine having to watch those fucking videos.
I couldn't.
Nope. So passengers made calls and sent text messages, the last being sent at 10:17. So at this point, the captain has been rescued for over 30 minutes, 31 minutes,
Yeah.
which is fucking bullshit.
Wow.
During and following the capsizing, a lot of reporting was done by the media and government that was completely inaccurate, which did not help with any of these fucking efforts.
The media. Why does the media have to come in and ruin everything?
They have to, because that's how they make their money.
That's so gross. Stop ruining people's lives with your media.
But then, like, without them, we also wouldn't know a ton of things either, right?
I know, it's a double-edged sword,
Yeah, you
but
have to take
still.
both, which is one of those things.
I think the worst thing to happen to media is the 24-hour media cycle.
Yeah. I think it was better.
Of constant need for a story, because you just go looking.
You want 100% accuracy, but you also want the news right away, and you only get one or the other, and that's it.
Everybody wants to be the first to break the story.
Yeah, because then if you're first one, then you get the most amount of coverage, and then that's it, right?
Yeah.
So later, newspapers apologized and made corrections, but this, of course, just led to more conspiracy theories to be thrown out there, because now it's like, did it really sink? Because we've fucking seen this shit in the States where they're like, was there really a shooting? Fuck you.
Yeah.
Fuck
Sandy
you.
Hook
Fuck
conspiracy theorists.
You guys are the worst people.
That's not what they're called.
That is a thing. That is a thing, though.
It's Sandy Hook deniers.
Yeah,
It was deniers.
The deniers. I think it was like the whole InfoWars thing. And fuck you. Fuck you, Alex Jones. Fuck
I
you.
couldn't imagine having to bury your child
And
then
then
have
dealing
a
with
man.
people who come up to you and tell you that your child didn't actually exist. Oh my God. I couldn't. You know what? I can't. No.
It's so incredibly sad.
Some people don't deserve. They don't deserve any. They don't deserve anything. They don't deserve any of it. No. Just
There's a lot of trash.
Just burn them all.
Burn them all.
Passengers who were able to reach the deck, jumped into the water and were rescued. And people trapped in a pilot house, which I don't know what that is, were rescued as well by breaking through the windows. So it doesn't seem like there's windows in any of the cabins.
So I'm thinking possibly there's no windows in the cabins, but I'm also thinking that it's like it's tipped over, and so they're like when it's this way, like the floor is here, so you're
Yeah.
not going to be able to like.
They're like making all these movements.
I know.
as if, like, they can
Nobody's
see.
watching me. I'm making hand gestures. So it's probably really hard, but breaking the glass, I think the pilot's house is like
I think
where like where like the big wheel is.
Yeah, I think that's where it is. So people who were able to get to the pilot house were
Yeah.
rescued because there is a big window there.
Yeah.
But the rest of the cabins don't have windows.
Well, they're the little small circle ones, probably.
Yeah.
Ugh.
So by 9:40, the Ministry of Oceans and Fishery declared the accident to be the highest state emergency in terms of naval accidents.
Wait, 9:40?
9:40. At that point, it's like, this isn't good if we can't reach them. And there's a lot of people on the
Yeah,
boat.
that's crazy.
So this is all by 2:42. 150 Republic of Korea Army Special Warfare Command and 196 ROK Naval Special Warfare Flotilla were involved, which is probably a whole bunch of very big expert people who are supposed to know.
A lot of army guys.
to know what to do.
Yeah. It's
They
a lot of
are
army people.
Trained for this stuff.
It's the Navy. It's the Korean Navy.
Yes, but of course, there's tons of miscommunications with them too, because
What?
of course there is.
Why? With what?
You'll see.
How?
You'll see. So
How?
rescue attempts continue for a long time, with the ROK Coast Guard pumping air to support possible air pockets on April 18th, which was 2 days after the accident.
So
they're hoping that maybe, people might have survived, so they're trying to add more air in there so they have extra time to save the people who are in there.
2 days later. 2 fucking days later. There's no.
So after that, more
all
tragedy
dead.
hits with this whole thing. April 21st, they tried to remotely operate underwater vehicles began being used for operations. On May 6th, a diver working for Undine Marine Industries died during the search. And on May 30th, another diver dies, which probably means that this wreckage is really fucking awful.
It's
yeah,
way down there.
and it's probably really like tangly, and because these are professional divers, so they're not gonna
And 2 have now died.
and on July
Jesus.
17th, a firefighting helicopter returning from rescue operations crashed near an apartment complex, killing all 5 officers abroad and injuring a high school student.
Oh my God. That poor high school. I hope it's not the same one.
A high school student.
No, but I was just like, I hope it's not the same high school that's just getting all.
I don't know if the high school student was someone they rescued, but I doubt it because it was really way later. I think it's just someone in an apartment, but at least they were just injured. So that's like a.
I mean, Jesus
thing.
Christ. How did the helicopter, there's a lot going on there.
Yeah. So a little after a year later, on April 22nd, 2015, the South Korean government announced plans to salvage the wreckage of Sewol in hopes of finding more information about the sinking and recover the bodies of the 9 victims that were still missing.
A year later?
They're still looking for those last 9 victims because they found a lot of bodies at this point. But
And they would have all floated
yeah,
all the way up.
but a couple of them might have been trapped in there.
Yeah.
So they're really,
So they're just trying to find the 9. I mean, at least it's only 9.
Yeah. Well, this is where it gets super shitty about what the media did. So MBC, which is like a big media reporting, they're like a big media company. It's like
It's news broadcasting company, isn't it?
no, that's NBC. This is MBC.
Oh.
M as in man, MBC, which is like it's like a media company in Korea.
Okay.
They're a
okay,
really
okay,
big
sorry.
one. I think there's like 4 or 5. When I was younger, there were 4 or 5. There's probably more now.
Yeah, probably.
But yeah, they reported at 11:01 that all students had been rescued.
Ooh, shit.
And this news was re-reported by other news organizations until 11:26.
Oh my God. Can you imagine? Okay, first of all, can you imagine being the parents that were receiving those videos and then on the news you're told your child survived and then you have to come to find out, oh no,
Just
your
kidding.
child actually died, and I hope they sued the news companies.
I didn't look into that, but this was because around 11 a.m., officers working for the educational departments from the Gyeonggi province sent text messages to the students' parents stating that all the students had been rescued, which is bullshit.
You weren't even there.
So,
Oh my
and
gosh.
this officer's belief was apparently confirmed by a police officer in the Danwon Police Department, which is basically just a lot of hearsay and a lot of like
Yeah.
telephone of like, I heard that this happened. Oh, I heard. And it's fucking, you know what?
You know what though? Honestly, when you hear of a massacre like this, you shouldn't be spreading the rumor that everyone survived.
But you want to say whatever you hear, and then you expect when you hear something from a police department, it's gonna be
Yeah,
true.
but
And you
it's
want to
just
be the
like-
very first people to come out with, "This is good news. This happened. This is amazing."
Yeah,
And it's like,
no.
nope, just kidding.
Shit, man.
Initial reports stated that the rescuers retrieved 368 people from the water, most of whom were students who had jumped from Sewol.
Oh my god. Well, okay, wait.
The South Korean government later corrected the statement, saying that 395 passengers remained missing. 395 passengers from the 476 people on that boat, by the
Jesus
way.
fucking Christ.
22 of the 29 crew members survived, including the 15 who were responsible for the accident.
There were 15 people responsible for the
Because
accident.
people in the engine room would also be responsible.
Oh.
Because maybe if the engine hadn't been fucking turned off, that boat wouldn't have sunk as quickly as well as also
I mean, 2 hours ain't quick, but yeah.
at the same time. Every minute counts.
Yeah, maybe they could have tipped it the other way.
Yeah, and that's
which
another thing. I don't know enough
mean,
about boats, but it's possible.
maybe they know more about it than I do.
Yeah. So the sinking of Sewol was the deadliest ferry disaster in South Korea in over 40 years.
Jeepers creepers.
There was another ferry accident about in 1971, I think, where most of the passengers died. But it wasn't like this was just everyone failing all these students.
Yeah, this is human failure.
So in total, 304 passengers and crew members died on the boat.
That's sad.
Of the 172 survivors, more than half were rescued by fishing boats and other commercial vessels that arrived approximately 40 minutes after the Coast Guard. So it wasn't like, I'm so glad these other fishing boats and commercial vessels were nearby to help out. But I just felt like the Coast Guard should have been able to.
The Coast Guard should have had a lot more boats to provide.
And they should have gone into the fucking boat and
Yeah.
tried to save more people.
Yeah,
but
they
that's
should've.
not what they fucking did. So
I
other
don't
survivors, one teenager said that crew members repeatedly told them, specifically the students of Tanwon High School, to stay in their cabins.
Why?
Because
They're high school kids and they thought they'd be all rambunctious in the hallways.
and they're like, I do have a quote from the
Did they not like the high
captain
school?
that says, the captain of the ship,
Yeah.
that says why he might have said that, and it's really fucked up.
But what I mean is, like, did they not like the high school?
No, that's not the reason.
Okay.
It was
Is
it
it
was
like-
something else completely. It's
Okay.
in his mind it was rational. It's you'll see it or hear
Okay.
it. So one student said that her and her classmates stayed until the ferry listed so far that the door was above their heads, and then that's when they escaped, which is why they were able to talk to the students. One witness said that at no time did a crew member help her or those whom she escaped with.
Wow.
But-
Because I was going to ask, like.
But there actually were 3 noted crew members who did stay behind and were credited by survivors for helping passengers escape. And this is going to be super sad. I didn't know this part at all, and then I was looking it up the other day, and it was so heart-wrenching. So the 3 heroes that were the crew members that stayed behind were Park Ji-young, Chung Hyun-sun, and Kim Ki-woon. And Park Ji-young is a 22-year-old female who was the youngest crew member. And survivors remembered her struggling to ensure all passengers on the 3rd and 4th floor would get out.
Yeah.
She insisted that the crew, including herself, would be the last to escape because that's what you're supposed to
Yep.
fucking do.
That is a woman that knows her job, that is doing her job the right way, and she's risking her life for other people.
Park pushed shocked passengers towards the exit, even when the water was up to her chest. Even though she probably knew
Okay,
at that
yeah.
point that she wasn't going to make it, she wanted to make sure that she saved as many people as possible.
Yeah.
This was also super depressing because Chung Hyun-sun and Kim Ki-woon were an engaged young couple
Oh.
who had been together for 4 years and had plans to marry that year.
Well, they died together.
Yeah. They were last seen yelling at passengers to get out of the ferry and pushing people out of the cabin. Then the couple went back to the cabins to save other passengers, and they never came back out.
No.
17-year-old Chong Cha-woong died after he gave his own life vest to his drowning friend and hurling himself into the waters to rescue others. Because obviously, even in shitty situations, there's always people out there who are going to try to help you.
Yeah, there is.
That's how it's supposed to be. And that's what the fucking captain of the ship was supposed to fucking do.
And the Coast Guard.
And the Coast Guard.
That's what everybody else should have been doing.
By the way, the Coast Guard didn't. No one went on the fucking boat to save them. So 59-year-old Kim Hong-kyung made a 10-meter rope from curtains and used it to drag up several passengers, saving the lives of up to 20 people.
Yeah, good.
He then boarded a fishing boat to continue his rescue effort. He survives, but then he also helped people survive.
Awesome.
And 56-year-old fisherman Park Young-sop pulled 27 survivors drifting at sea onto his 9.77-ton ship. I don't think these survivors, I don't know, but it doesn't seem like, I think like survivors wouldn't have drifted if the fucking engine was on, but who fucking knows?
I mean, the fact, yeah.
So students said that even after the Coast Guard officers got there, they failed to come abroad to help those trapped and simply waited outside the ferry to fish passengers out of the water. Because it seems like no one really gave them direct orders to go in and save the people.
Why would you not have a direct order? Like, why do you need an order to do that? Like, go save those people.
I don't know.
How many boats were there?
It just sounded so, yeah. So the cause of the disaster was an unreasonable sudden turn, which we knew.
Yeah.
So on April 19th, the captain of the ferry was arrested for suspicion of negligence of duty, violation of maritime law, and other infringements. South Korean law explicitly requires captains to remain on the ship during a disaster, and Captain Lee did not because he was fucking first one to be rescued.
Yep. GG.
By April 26th, a total of 15 crew members, including the captain, were arrested.
Good.
So on November 11th, 2014, so because this was the same year as the actual accident, Captain Lee Chun-sok was found of gross negligence and sentenced to 36 years in prison.
I mean,
Captain Lee is in his late 60s and accepted the fact that he will be dying in jail.
So they gave him a life sentence.
Basically.
Well, good.
Chief Engineer Park was found guilty of murder and jailed for 30 years, which didn't make sense as to how Captain Lee wasn't found of murder, but then the chief engineer
because
the engine was, because that wasn't the one who turned the boat, though. I mean,
no. Yeah, it's a little weird that the engine person was charged with the murder. I understand why the captain wasn't, because he wasn't in the room.
Yeah.
I feel like the two people, definitely the one person should be charged with the murder.
Yeah.
I don't understand why the engine person would have been.
So 13 other crew members were given jail sentences up to 20 years on charges, including abandonment and a violation of maritime law.
Yeah.
So they got theirs. But obviously there was a ton of families who showed up because their kids fucking died, and you don't expect your kid going on a fucking field trip.
And the news is telling them that they all survived.
Yeah, and you don't expect your kid to be on a fucking routine cruise, school field trip, and then fucking die in that accident because who the hell
you really don't
that shit?
know, and that's every parent's fucking nightmare.
Many families were present at the hearing were angry with the verdict, as many of them saw this act as murder. They thought everyone who were involved in this act should have been charged with murder. But obviously there's a lot of steps that need to be taken for murder.
I would say manslaughter.
Yeah.
Yes. Murder, no, because with the information that I have at this current time, I don't think that it was intentional.
It wasn't intentional, but
not that murder needs to be intentional for it to be a murder, but
it felt like murder with him jumping off the boat and not trying to save. You know what I mean?
I mean, then everybody, like the Coast Guard, should be fucking charged with murder. I don't think it's a murder.
You can't charge government authorities with murder. Are you kidding? Doesn't matter where you are in the world. Captain Lee, when questioned why he didn't let his passengers leave the ship, said that he feared the passengers would drift away. This was his reasoning as to why he didn't. and you're not gonna like it.
Oh, so let's just keep them all contained in the boat where they can dive there instead of getting out of the boat because they might drift away and be saved.
The current was
you.
very strong. The temperature of the ocean water was cold. And I thought if people left the ferry without proper judgment, if they were not wearing a life jacket, and even if they were, they would drift away and face many other difficulties.
I mean,
and so no, I don't agree with his, rationalization at all, but it was his rationalization.
Like I'm trying to see it, and it's sort of like, yes. However, instead of telling people to go back to their rooms and put their life jacket on, you should have been telling people to put their fucking life jacket on and then get out of the boat.
Yeah,
with their life jacket on.
Go to the highest point and get
hold
the fuck
hands.
out.
Hold hands. Get 20 of you people
what about
holding hands.
I'm trying to figure out how come I was
maybe the lifeboats
confused.
were on the other side that was tipping, and maybe that's why they were saying that it couldn't be
But they should have definitely
excavated.
had enough life jackets for everyone on the fucking boat.
Well, yeah, because they probably would have been in their rooms.
Yeah, but
so it should have been a go back to your room, put your life jacket
and
on,
come the fuck out.
and then.
But I mean, that one kid had to give away his life jacket to save his friend. So I'm trying. It doesn't sound like there wasn't enough life jackets either.
Maybe they didn't get back to their room.
I do feel like a lot of the time when you get on a boat,
maybe they're on breakfast.
I think a lot of time when you get on a boat, there are never enough life jackets.
No, there isn't.
I don't think there ever is. No. They just say there is because they just don't expect anything like this to happen.
Well, on cruise ships, I would say yes, they do, because they have to have two in every single room.
Yes.
You can only have two people in a room. So I would say that. But
for something like this, like a normal ferry, imagine we were taking one of those ferries that take us to the States. I don't think they have enough life jackets for all of us.
I don't think
I
so
doubt
either.
It. Yeah, so
that's sad.
He said, "I'm sorry to the people of South Korea for causing a disturbance, and I bow my head in apology to the families of the victims."
Oh,
just all he can say. What else can he really fucking say?
It's funny because it's like you hear that, and I'm wondering if it's like a translation thing, because it's like, sorry, I caused a disturbance, but like maybe when it's spoken in Korean and he was actually saying it, because like hanging your head in shame and respect, like that's a big thing.
But that's what you're supposed to do.
Yeah,
that's what you have to do in Korea.
Yeah,
that's what I had to do every time I did anything wrong to my dad. I had to get on my knees and basically beg him.
Yeah, so it's like
that's what we learned.
I'm wondering if it's getting lost in translation, where we're like, or maybe me, not we, where I'm like, oh, it's like he doesn't really mean it.
I for sure think he means it. I think he did try to save himself before everyone else.
Yes.
But he obviously didn't mean to kill that many kids. He didn't mean to kill over 300 people. There was never anything malicious. He's just fucking dumb.
Yeah, he
saved
himself.
Yeah, he saved himself.
He's selfish.
And he's very selfish, and that's really what it was. But I don't think he ever meant to kill anyone. He just was completely selfish and didn't think anything through.
Yeah.
So some of the other contributing factors in the disaster was that, and this is when the whole thing with this Hampung department happens. The vessel was licensed based on fake documents. Because as you know about every rich person, there's always a certain level of bribing and faking that you do to get what you want. Right? So just say you have a building and it's not up to code, but then you just do it.
And then you just get this elevator put in, and then you get this like 5-ton.
And for sure it happens in more than places than Korea. But I'm pretty sure it doesn't get as reported as badly, because Korea is all about you fucking shame them after they did something awful.
Yeah, shame is a powerful motivator.
And I'm glad that they do. And that's I think that's why there is always more information in Korea about this kind of stuff.
So the ferry was purchased or
was licensed on fake documents.
Okay.
The Sewol was further modified illegally and was carrying about 3 times its legal limit, which might explain why it tipped over, and that's why they didn't know what to do anymore. Yeah. That's why they were confused.
It probably tipped too quickly, and okay.
And I think that's what it was. I think it was the load more than anything else. Like, I don't know.
So they kitted up this fucking boat.
So they just put too much stuff in this
Yeah.
boat had way too much stuff they were carrying, and
Yeah.
then maybe
it's
in a
too
normal
heavy.
maneuver, if that person, like, you know, if if they had like just done that turn, it wouldn't have sunk and they would have been able to fix it. But because of how heavy the boat was, it turned too quickly, and then like the shift of weight might have.
Yeah, and maybe
it.
if they would have kept the engine on, maybe that's like one of the little features of like it'll just like self-level.
Yeah.
I don't fucking know.
But
Oh
maybe
my
that's
God.
what it is, because that's another thing. It's like, well, maybe it wasn't even their fault, because maybe if the boat was doing the legal thing and carrying a third less of weight than it should have been, then maybe this wouldn't have fucking happened.
Yeah, there's a lot more people to blame here.
Yep.
That were who owned the
Adequate,
boat.
and everyone, fortunately, because this is Korea, they do get caught, and that's what I appreciate.
Yeah.
Adequate safety checks were not performed by the Korean Register of Shipping, because it turns out if you just give people money, they'll look the other way. Did you know that?
What?
I know, right?
I never would have
happens here.
thought.
Not in this country.
Not anywhere in the world would I ever assume that money would cause
Just
someone
solve your problem.
to look the other
I
way.
know, it's so crazy.
What? I'm so shocked.
I know. So, a government investigation into the incident concluded that the ferry sank due to negligence and corruption.
Yeah, but the people that are doing all the corruption, they're not the ones getting in trouble.
Oh, they will.
Okay.
That's what I appreciate about Korea is
Okay.
that
They'll get
everyone
ya.
gets fucking in everyone who does something wrong usually gets in trouble.
Yeah.
So, lax regulations, poor safety inspections, and a slow and badly coordinated Coast Guard response was the contributing factors. Because the Coast Guard should not have taken that long to get there,
No.
as we know. 'Cause
And they should have brought
speedboats.
more. Yeah.
Ferries don't go that fast. They have
No.
speedboats. They have fucking helicopters. You know, this isn't.
But I
This
mean,
was-
if they were out
was 4
an
years.
hour and a bit,
But the
like,
ferries don't go that fast.
no, but I'm just wondering, like, even if it's still an hour out, like, maybe the timeline of everything getting out there really isn't that shocked. Because I was thinking that it was a situation where the island is here and the mainland's here and, like, the boat was here, but you could, like, still, you could see the island and you could see the boat from, like, the mainland.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm having, like, a distance.
But I do think that the Coast Guard, because this is their job,
Yeah.
they can have
They
it
should have
much
been
faster.
They should have been there with faster boats, more boats, and should have been able to get more people, and they should have gotten
onto the
off
boat
their boat.
and got on the boat and fucking saved people.
Depending on what the boat was like, though.
Even then, that's your job. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
but
it is
that
your job.
is your job. I don't.
Yeah.
That's how it is, right?
Yeah.
So
It's true.
it was a man-made disaster resulting from top-level officials prioritizing profit over safety.
And a
Literally.
whole bunch of high school kids had to die
Yep.
so that some dude could save $1,000.
So, as more illicit details about Sewol came to light, authorities became much more interested in the billionaire businessman behind the operations. Unfortunately, in Korea, even if you have a ton of money, they will fucking go after you because
Because to some
you
people,
shouldn't be
money.
above the law, no matter how much money
Because
you
the
have.
government wants your money.
Yes, that too.
'Cause-
But you should never be above the law,
Yeah.
ever.
It's like, hey, you can have all this money, but if you start doing bad shit, we're going to take your money.
Unfortunately, before I get to the next part, you have to know that the billionaire businessman Yoo Pyong-yeon will not ever go to court.
Why?
Oh, okay. So
Why, Angela?
You're gonna get there. He was the owner of the ferry operator Choi Hae-jin Marine Company. A nationwide manhunt started soon after the disaster and ended in June when his body was discovered in an orchard near his cabin. That's why he will never be prosecuted, because he was dead.
Was he murdered?
He was hidden in a cabin at his holiday home to evade arrest and was discovered in June 12th. And it was only identified a week later as Yu, because it was impossible to conclude the cause of death since Yu's body was in very advanced stage of decomposition.
Someone fucking killed him for killing their kids.
Yep. And you know what?
Yeah, I'm okay
you don't
with
need to look
it.
into it.
I'm
It's
okay with
fine.
it. But I did want to know if he was actually murdered. I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if
I wanna
that's the
know-
cover up.
It was April. So, I mean, if he found out, he ran away in April and his body was badly decomposing
Yeah,
by
but that's
June.
when it happened.
By June, decomposing that quickly? Like, how?
Weather, hotness. If it's hot,
Yeah, that's true.
he's in a hot little cabin by himself.
But he was discovered in an orchard near his cabin.
Oh, if he's outside,
But-
then you have weather, animals.
Yeah.
Your decomposition wouldn't be that. Your body starts decomposing after like 48 hours, doesn't it? So I mean, 3 months later,
But he
2
was
months
basically
later.
hiding in his holiday home, hoping to evade. And I'm pretty sure someone figured out where the fuck he was and killed him.
Yeah.
Because they were fucking mad that he obviously thought that money was more important than people, which is how most people are nowadays.
Yeah.
Let's be for real. Every time we watch, I look at the news, it's like, oh, and then money.
Maybe he killed himself. Maybe he felt
He
so
wouldn't-
bad.
He wouldn't have gone into hiding, though.
Maybe he wasn't going into hiding. Maybe
Maybe.
he felt really bad.
I doubt it, though.
And he killed himself.
I feel like someone killed him.
It seems weird they wouldn't
vengeful.
be able to get a cause of death.
Well, maybe that's a different thing. They didn't want to find a cause of death. They
Yeah,
don't
'cause
want to
the
find
government
the person.
did it. The government did it.
Or they didn't want to find the person who did it because maybe it was a parent and they,
Yeah.
you know, when it's one of those things where it's like, do you prosecute this parent who's very much mourning and the fact that this guy fucking killed?
It was probably like
imagine if you had a
it was like
couple
a
of kids
cup.
on that fucking ferry too, because they're in high school, so
Yeah.
you could easily have had 3 kids on that fucking boat.
yeah.
So, yeah. In a case against officials over the overloading of cargo, Kim Hin-sik, Chong Hae-jin's Marine chief executive, was found guilty of negligence and received 10 years in prison terms. So 6 other company employees and a Korean Shipping Association official also received prison sentences. Because if you're caught doing that kind of shit, you should go to
Yeah.
fucking prison.
You should forever.
So on April 28th, 2015, following appeals, because that's how every court system
Yeah.
works, Captain Lee was found guilty of murder, and his sentence was increased to life imprisonment. So the appeal did
Oh.
not work for him.
So the captain was charged with murder?
He was in much later.
Thank God.
But the 14 other crew members received a reduced sentence of a maximum of 12 years, including 10 years for Chief Engineer Park, whose murder conviction was overturned.
Yeah, okay,
And this
good.
was because we drew a distinction between the Captain Lee Chun-suk, Captain Lee Chun-suk, who has a great responsibility, and crew members who took orders from the captain.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's very reasonable. I get it.
Yeah. I don't think the engineer guy should have been charged more than the captain.
And then the chief executive, Kim Hin-sik's sentence was also reduced to 7 years. That's because probably money. But at least he's in prison. That's better than what we fucking do here. So
Yeah.
not here, but where I'm
Yeah.
from, which is the States.
At least he got some prison time.
So this is all extra stuff because that was basically the end of the story. But this, I don't think you'd really know a whole bunch about. But this incident became incredibly political as the very popular President Park Geun-hye, who was the very first female president in all of East Asia, who had an approval rating of 71%, fell to 40% after the Sewol disaster.
Why?
And this is because she couldn't account for 7 hours. She literally didn't say anything about the event until 5:15 that afternoon.
I mean,
So everything happened around 9 a.m. and no one knows where she was for those 7 hours.
that's weird.
No one could account for it, and she never said anything. And she should have been in a disaster center around 5:15.
That's
So when she was
a little
impeached,
weird.
because she was impeached in March 2017 for cult-related reasons, which makes this whole, like, I don't know if you knew this, but she was impeached because, like, one of her personal people that she talked to about all of her problems was like daughter of a big cult leader who was also not a government official, and you can't talk about government business with non-government officials.
Yeah.
And she was also known to be taking money and, you know, lobbyists and
So worth the impeachment.
yeah, but I mean, look, they impeached her. I wonder. Anyways,
It took a few years, though. It took a few years.
No, she didn't get caught until 2017.
Yeah, but I'm
And-
just saying.
But then, yeah, but she
I
was
mean,
president.
We're
for a
we're
while.
still like they've almost
working.
got him.
No, it's not gonna. I don't feel justice. Okay, I don't know.
Oh,
Oh,
we're
it's
not
okay.
getting. No. Yeah, they're not gonna get the justice.
So she was impeached for a ton of other reasons in March 2017, but the Sewol disaster we brought up a lot during her time in office and in her trial, because it basically was just like, how can we trust your judgment and your leadership if we can't count on you for a disaster like this?
Yeah, I mean, it's weird that she won't state what she was doing. I could see how conspiracy theories were spawning because
I
of
think
that.
official word was basically just like she was busy. But that's my story. So, but just as a disclaimer, Korea isn't that corrupt. So it's not any more corrupt
There's
than
corruption
any
everywhere.
other
Like,
country. It's just that these disasters I'm going to report about are closer to me because I'm Korean. There's obviously other disasters that happen. They're
Korea,
similar.
like these stories aren't supposed to reflect that like Korea is super corrupt. It's just like corruption happened and they got caught and now we have the story,
Yeah.
which is a lot better than the corruption that happens that doesn't get caught.
And or if they do get caught, then they sweep it under the rug.
Yeah,
here.
and it's like, oh, this, isn't really what happened.
It's like
over
we didn't
here.
kill people. We just destroyed their livelihood. But
Yeah.
it's okay because we didn't kill them. Or if you indirectly kill people here, then it's okay. You can get away with it.
Off topic, kind of. Did anybody go to jail for the BP oil spills?
No. See, I told you.
Corruption.
So at least in Korea, if you do something really shitty and people die, they will come after you.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that. And at least they have tons of shame.
Sometimes other people will come after you and kill you in an orchard field. Mm-hmm. They'll leave your body there to rot.
That's your conspiracy theory for the story.
Oh yeah, he either killed himself or someone went and murdered him.
Yeah.
I mean, those are the only two options. There's not
Yeah.
another option involved.
He got hit on the head by an apple that fell from the orchard.
Yeah, gravity got him.
That'd be the funniest thing, where he choked on an apple.
Yeah, that Adam's apple. Well, thanks for telling me the story. I actually like it when you tell me your Korean stuff.
Thank you.
I like learning about other stuff, other countries. So I'm also doing a foreign country. This will be a quick one.
Well, that's like the balance out,
Yeah.
Like you do a long one, I do a short one.
Yeah.
And then, so, yeah.
Okay, so Jeffrey Howe was a 49-year-old successful kitchen salesman from Southgate, London, United Kingdom.
Ooh, not from here.
No, not this London. He had worked all around the country and had even been a successful chef in Italy. So he was doing pretty well for himself. He was really successful. He loved to travel and see new things and have new experiences.
He's a millennial.
Well, back in 2009. So he's not a millennial. If he's
No, I'm just saying that's what
that's what we love
known
now.
for,
Yeah.
right? Like, oh yeah,
Sorry.
I love experiences more than anything.
That joke went right over my head. How's your head?
Huh? Oh my god.
So he was a pretty good guy all around, and he was really nice and generous, and he was always trying to help other people out, share the wealth type deal. And generally speaking, when you have someone who's really nice and caring and generous, you have people that are like little leeches and just somehow make their way into your life and suck everything right out of you. So
Isn't that that's basically what, like, every celebrity has that with their crew and stuff, right?
yeah, everyone has one. Even if you're not poor or even if you're not rich, you probably have someone that just takes.
There's always someone.
Yeah, there's always a taker. There's always a giver. And so Jeffrey had this friend who had fallen on some hard times. And so he offered for him to come stay at his place for a little bit until he gets his shit together, which sounds like a pretty sweet deal. And his friend's name was Stephen Marshall. And Stephen Marshall is a 38-year-old bodybuilder and personal trainer from Borehamwood, Hertfordshire. And this dude is the worst roommate ever.
Was he like one of those like juicing bras?
I think he's
bra,
a
and a
yeah.
juicing, and
Yeah.
then he's all like, oh, bra.
So, well, it'd be, I don't know what the bra accent would be in England. Would it still be bra?
Is it like a Cockney
Bra.
accent? Did you ever watch The Misfits?
Yes.
Remember that girl with the really thick,
Yeah.
like, maybe it's like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when Steven first moves in, he brings along his girlfriend, Sarah, who is a sex worker. And he actually met Sarah when he hired her for a job.
I mean, that's so nice that she decided to give it to him for free now?
Well, I mean, give it to him and just fear are two very. It's possible that maybe. Well, it's possible that maybe she was with him out of fear. He was a scary dude.
So she didn't have someone watching her back as a sex worker? Like, that was the whole point.
I mean, maybe he was her, because he also was a bouncer, or he used to be a bouncer
so
for
he might also
a
be like
club.
a
So yeah, maybe he was a little bit of a pimp type with her.
Oh, that's.
He made her change her name from Sarah with an A and no H to Sarah with an H.
Why?
I don't know. It was just some little factoid that got thrown into the story, and I was like, well, that's weird.
Control issue.
Yeah, he made her change his name. And yeah, so the two of them move in to Jeffrey's house, and they immediately start mooching off of him. They're eating all of his food. They're not cleaning up after themselves. And then they even start going and forging his signature on government documents to get like housing benefits or something like that, saying like, oh, Jeffrey's renting out this house to us, and whatever, which he's like, hey, don't like that you're doing this. You're going to need to go, because this really wasn't the situation that I agreed to.
So crazy.
Yeah. Especially like so early on. Like they weren't even there for like a month before they were already forging a signature on things.
Which just shows how shitty they were as people.
And so Jeffrey's like, you gotta go. I don't want you living here anymore. He's been complaining to his friends. Like, I've got these roommates, and everyone's like, tell him to leave. And so he goes up to Jeff, and he goes up to Steven, and he's like, you gotta go. And Steven's like, okay, yeah, you know what, buddy? I'm really sorry. Really sorry for all the shit that I've done. But if you just give me another week, promise, we'll be out in a week. We just need to get our shit together. And Steven's like, okay, yeah.
Just need to work out a murder plan before we go.
We'll give you a week. And then a month goes by, and Steven and Sarah are still there, and they're still just ruining everything. They're super destructive. Jeff confronts them again, and again they're like, we'll be out in a week. We promise. We found an apartment. We'll be out. And the cycle continues for a little bit until March 8th, 2009. When, after getting into another argument about him moving out, Steven attacks Jeffrey and stabs him twice in the back with a 4-inch blade, puncturing his lung.
Oh my God.
And as Jeffrey laid on the floor bleeding out, Steven and Sarah steal his wallet and credit cards, and then they go on a shopping spree.
Of course.
They also forge a bunch of checks and empty out his bank account, and he was a rich man. So
he was.
Yeah.
Oh, I did.
Yeah, he was pretty loaded.
Poor Jeffrey.
Doing well for himself. So they go on a shopping spree, and they forge checks and empty out his bank account. And then they return back to the house, where Steven then begins to dismember Jeffrey's body, while Sarah continues her shopping spree online.
Chewy penis? No?
No.
Oh.
So because Jeffrey is like this big traveler and stuff, they decide as a couple that they're going to play it off as if Jeff has left, and that they've just been renting out this, and that he's been renting out the space to them. And it's really a lie that they've been telling a lot of people, because they've gone through the government.
It's a pretty smart move, actually.
Yeah. So they sell all of his belongings, they get rid of all of his things, and then they basically just settle in to their new life. But however, on March 15th, after not hearing from her son for a while, Jeffrey's mother calls one of her son's friends and expresses her concern, because they used to talk like several times a week. It's now been a week. She hasn't heard from her son. She's like,
it's a long time.
Hey.
Yeah.
So that friend heads over to the house and runs into Steven and Sarah, who they have met before and had talked. Like, she knew about Steven and Sarah, and that they were living there, because she knew all about the crap that they were doing. And they were like, oh yeah, he packed up and like left months ago. And the friend was all like, well, that's weird,
because his mom just talked to him.
Yeah.
And he doesn't sound like he was fucking with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like the mom would sort of know. So they go over to the neighbors and they're just like, hey, so our friend's kind of gone missing. We haven't heard from him in a while. Have you seen anything? And the neighbors are like, oh yeah, we haven't seen his cars in there for months. Even though it had only been a week, I guess he had like previously Jeff had like stolen or sold his cars. So the neighbors had thought that he actually had moved. So the neighbors sort of backed up the story that he had left and that he was renting out the place to the two neighbors, or the two Stephen and Sarah. So the friend then tries to call Jeff, but the call doesn't go through because they had sold his cell phone, and
Took the SIM card out.
So they go to the police and they report him as a missing person.
Yes.
And so the police then go to the apartment, and they break down the door because nobody was home. So they do a forced entry and they search all the rooms and find nothing, except for the only thing that they said was a little offhand was that his Jeffrey's passport was on the kitchen table or counter or something like that, like out in view.
But it would also be weird because how does he travel without his passport?
Yes. So they were a little like, what? But they didn't find anything or see anything.
No dead body.
No dead body. So they leave, and that was basically the end of that. Now, on March 22nd, 2009, a left leg is found with a foot attached in a lay-by on the A507 in Cottard, Hertfordshire. And then immediately a murder investigation is launched. However, all they have is a foot. They don't really have anything else. A week later, a left forearm dismembered at the elbow and wrist was found on a grassy hill in Drovers Lane in Wheathampstead.
Was there still skin? Like, I wonder if he had any tattoos.
They said that when the police later on ended up like releasing a little bit of information, they said that he was a white male with heavy eczema. Eczema, yeah. Eczema.
Yeah.
Eczema. I'm like seeing the word and I'm just like I can't fucking
eczema. Yep.
I can't say that. But that was about it. No tattoos because they only had an arm and a leg.
Yeah.
They
you don't fingerprint your foot.
Yes. 2 days later, a farmer in Ashfordby, Leicestershire, discovers a head in his cattle pen. The flesh had been completely removed, and the eyes, ears, tongue, and neck had been cut off.
But the teeth were still there.
Yeah, so the teeth were still there, and they were able to run some dental records. Now, I don't know if the animals had removed the skin.
And the eyes for sure.
The eyes, ears, tongue, but those were cut off. So I think those, like, I don't know where they are, but they went somewhere.
Animals might have taken the skin.
Yeah, but it was like the skin had been removed. I thought that was a little...
Yeah.
Because why would you say you found a head and not just a skull at that point?
Yeah.
If everything has been removed from it.
I feel like maybe he pulled it off then at that point because it just sounds like... Because the animals would have eaten, like, the arm.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, this is just the head that they find.
But they found, like, the forearm and they found a foot.
They found a foot in one country or in one town on the side of a highway. Then they found the arm.
But was the skin attached on all of them?
Yes.
So that's why I think it's weird.
Except for the head, yes.
Yeah, and that's why I thought it was weird that the skull would be missing skin.
And I wasn't sure if maybe they did it so that...
It's harder to distinguish.
Well, I was wondering possibly if, like, Stephen had removed the skin of the face so that he wouldn't be as recognizable. Yeah. Possibly. I mean, I don't know. He doesn't say anything. On April 7th, a right leg was found in a luggage bag near a highway bypass, the A10 bypass in Hertfordshire.
Imagine being these people who find these random body parts.
I just couldn't imagine. You hear about them all the time, and like
walking into the forest, and you're like, "Oh, there's the leg," or your dog finding it and putting it in their mouth, and
and then bringing it back to you because they think they found you this perfect like little gift, and they're just like, "Look what I found," but really they've just ruined your whole life. So on April 7th, they find the right leg. 4 days later, the torso, right arm, and upper left arm was discovered in a ditch inside a green suitcase that matched the same brand as the luggage bag that they found previously.
So he's a jigsaw puzzle.
Well, actually, just so you know, he actually ends up getting called the Jigsaw Killer.
Well, yeah, because he. Oh my
Yeah.
God.
Which
He
I
just
was like,
cut him all
yeah,
up
he cut him up
into little pieces, and
then
put
dumped
it
him places.
together.
Like,
Oh my God.
and he was murdered on the 9th or the 8th, March 8th, and then started dropping his body parts off on the 20th.
This can't possibly have been his first murder. For him to have gone directly, like it sounds way too much like there's no way this is his first murder, because how can he do all of this?
Yeah.
Like without, I feel like there'd be hesitation marks.
Yes.
You know what yeah.
So on April 11th, oh sorry, no, the torso was found. So by the time they found the torso, the Bedfordshire and Hertfordshire Major Crime Unit was leading the investigation and had over 100 officers on the case, because the news was going batshit bananas, because like body parts
and
just
then
popping
you
up.
could literally be anybody walking around and be like, found a body part today. That was super great.
And they don't know who he is.
No.
Like they can't trace it. So
yeah,
they
have his teeth now.
Well, they had the teeth, so they finally ran the dental records on the head, and then they were able to match it back to Jeffrey Howe.
Mm-hmm.
And so then they're like, okay, well now we've got them. Like we had the missing persons thing. So then they're like, they pull up the missing persons report, and they're like, okay, we got to go question like these, the roommates. But then they realize that the torso that they had just found is very, very close by the apartment that Sarah and Stephen are living at. So they're just like,
they got lazy with that.
Has to be them. So on April 21st, the police arrest Stephen and Sarah for the disappearance of Jeffrey Howe. And when they go back into the apartment with their luminol, they find blood everywhere. In the bedroom, in the bathroom, under the carpet, just like everywhere. They find it in the truck, because the police ended up eventually tracing down a lot of the stuff that Stephen and Sarah had sold of Jeffrey's, and in the back of his vehicle that they had sold, there was like his blood was all over the place. So
I can't believe they still continue to live there.
Well, why not? They like thought they'd probably be able to get away with it, man, right? Like,
I guess.
I mean,
there's a lot of blood there, but all right.
Yeah. So on January 12th, 2010, the trial begins. And Stephen initially is denying everything, that he'd murdered Jeffrey. He says that Sarah was the one that murdered him, and that he only helped to dismember and dispose of the body. Sarah, of course, denies all of the charges and testifies against Stephen, saying that he would repeatedly threaten her life, and that he threatened to get rid of her previous boyfriends and bury them in Epping Forest. And he would often boast about having considerable experience of disposing of bodies, because apparently Stephen used to work as a bouncer for a London nightclub run by the Addams crime family, and they used him to dismember the bodies of people that they killed.
How did they
This crime
find out
family.
that he was okay with doing it? Did they just ask him?
I think that
cool with it?
I think it's a situation where when you work for a crime family and they tell you to do something, you just do it. He was quoted like later on as saying that like when they asked him to do it, he just thought it was best to just do it, not ask any questions, which
he probably wouldn't have gotten caught for any
yeah.
of those crimes in particular. But then this one, it's like, well, you fucking
yeah, you fucked up a little.
You killed someone you knew, first of all, which is how you usually get caught. Just not saying that you should just go kill random people on the streets. Just saying. It's a public service announcement.
Yeah. So once that bombshell got dropped, and it got exposed that he used to work for this crime family, Stephen changes his plea to guilty, and is sentenced to life imprisonment for a minimum of 36 years. Sarah then also changes her plea to guilty, and was sentenced to 3 years and 9 months for perverting the course of justice by helping Stephen drop the head off. It was the only thing that they were able to prove. But but then was given a separate 2-year sentence for lying about Jeff's whereabouts to the police. However, she was acquitted for the murder, probably because she gave a really good testimony against Stephen.
Against Stephen, yeah. And he probably did the actual murdering.
Yeah.
She's not guilty.
Although two of her close friends testified against her. Ooh. One said that Sarah had stated to her that she actually was the one that killed Jeffrey. Mm-hmm. Another one testified that she covered his face with a pillow to stop him from making noises after Stephen had killed him. And so like she was getting drunk and talking about it to her friends, and so
she probably took a larger part of the murder than she's admitting to. Yeah, but they can only choose one, and they have more evidence against him.
Yeah, so. And she got a really good deal, probably. So yeah, that's my murder of Jeffrey Howe.
And she's free now.
Yeah, she is. So she is free. She's
probably married.
He is not. He will be in jail forever. He did try to appeal his conviction. However, they were like, no, you're in here forever.
Fucking cut up a body and just like, I think if you just
not even one.
Yeah.
You then admitted to another 4. And interesting fact about that, he admitted to killing the 4 people, but he wouldn't tell them what the names are. All he said is that they were buried in Epping Forest. But he wouldn't like tell them where
specifically. Yeah.
And
so if you go to Epping Forest and you find some skeletons, call the cops.
Well, apparently there's a lot of bodies there. Supposedly, that is where the crime family, the Adams crime family, had told him to dump all the bodies, was in Epping Forest.
So that means that if you go to that forest, you're gonna find a dead body.
Well. Now, Sarah did tell the police, because the only limbs that were not recovered of Jeffrey's was his hands.
Mm-hmm. And of the fingerprints.
Sarah had said that his hands were buried in the Epping Forest, and they never recovered them.
It must be like a big ass fucking forest.
Yeah, it must be.
Yeah, because you'd be able to find a couple of dead bodies, you'd assume, with like hikers and stuff. But.
Yeah, like after you know that once you've heard that there's possibly 4 whole bodies and then maybe some other body parts, why would you not take your dogs out there? Like, surely there's...
it must be a giant
something.
Maybe it's like a national forest.
Yeah.
And I don't know, because I don't live in the UK, and I don't know my national parks or really anything about geography.
So this was the Jigsaw Killer. He was deemed the Jigsaw Killer in the media. Well, he was first called the Jigsaw Man, but apparently that got changed to Killer because there's a movie called The Jigsaw Man. And then also...
And Saw was called Jigsaw as well.
Yeah, and that actually came out around the same time, because this was 2009. So when did the first Saw movie come out?
I think way before then.
Well, but I owned 1, 2, and 3 in college, so probably 2005. I want to say would have been the first Saw movie.
2004, yeah. So yeah, it was way before. So that's the reason why they couldn't really call him the Jigsaw.
Well,
Jigsaw, I guess.
Yeah,
because that was the name. What was that? I didn't watch the full first movie. Did they call him Jigsaw in the first movie?
Okay, he was called Jigsaw. I don't know why though, because
he made them cut off their legs.
I think he was leaving the puzzle piece, wasn't he? Wasn't he cutting out a puzzle piece of their skin?
Was he? I don't remember.
I have absolutely no idea. I don't know.
I remember Carrie Ells was in the movie, and he was my favorite person. I was so sad to have had to watch that movie to see him in the movie, and I'm like, I'm never watching any of these movies again because this is mean.
All right, guys. Well, thanks so much for listening to this episode.
And if you have any interesting stories that you would like to share with us or would like us to cover,
or themes that you'd like us to cover,
just email us at peoplekeepdying@gmail.com.
You can also find us on most social media at People Keep Dying. And if you could leave us a thumbs up or review on whatever podcast network you're listening to us on, that would be greatly appreciated and super helpful.
Super appreciated. And then if you ever, I'd really appreciate it. A lot. So thank you.
And we hope that you guys are still around to listen to us next week.
So don't die.
Bye.